Welcome back for another video. For today's video we spoke with 3 FPL champions to get their story and share a few tips behind their road to winning it all. If you enjoyed today's video, please drop it a like and subscribe to support the channel. I read every comment, so leave one below and I'll be sure to read it. Enjoy the video. Winning FPL is the stuff dreams are made of for those of us that take the game seriously. It's incredibly challenging and becoming increasingly more difficult every season. There's a very exclusive club of limited managers who have done it. We asked the 3 managers 3 questions. What tips can you share behind your road to winning FPL? What's your best memory from the season you won? And what did you do to celebrate? The first manager is Joshua Ball, with a brilliant team name, the Bulldozers. He bulldozed his way through the 2019-20 season to win it all, finishing on 2,557 points. This was his final team after Gameweek 38 had wrapped up. And here's what he had to say. He said, "I'd be lying if I said you don't need to get very lucky, but obviously if you don't play well, luck is only going to take you so far." I think most people who take FPL seriously are spending a fair chunk of time thinking about it, but I found that the more time I spend weighing up all the possible options, the better I do. A lot of that time is collecting every tidbit of information I can get my hands on, in the hopes that it makes it clearer what the best long-term option is. But disclaimer, please don't spend all your time thinking about FPL in hopes of winning a stress ball. At the end of the day, it's only a game. It was the season that COVID hit and I got propelled into the top 10 for the first time just before the season was put on hold as we went into lockdown. The last match was Leicester vs Villa and I needed Barnes and Vardy to score well for me. I wasn't watching the match, but I knew Vardy hadn't started. By the end I was frantically refreshing BBC Sport, hoping that maybe both players would get a hat-trick. They both ended with 2 each. I was in 7th until the season restarted, which was plenty of time to build up my nerves around it. I'm probably a bit of an odd case in that the results weren't announced for a couple of weeks after the last match, so I basically just checked my phone, and when I woke up in the morning I realised I'd won. I spent most of the day getting no work done and generally just enjoying my 15 minutes of fame. I spent the evening sat in a field drinking lots of Prosecco with everyone I knew who hadn't left town because of COVID. Unfortunately it was when we still weren't allowed to socialise inside, but on the plus side it was a gorgeous summer evening to get drunk in a meadow. The second manager is Shaikh, with the aptly named Yusuf's team. He won the 2017-18 season with a final score of 2,512 points. He won in impressive style. He was ranked 6th heading into Gameweek 38, but remarkably still had his triple captain chip left and it was used on Salah, who sealed it for him. This was his final team after Gameweek 38 had wrapped up. He said, "Here's 3 things that I did over the season that helped. Number 1 was not taking negative hits. Number 2 was captaining midfielders. And number 3 was leaving and playing most of the chips at the end of the season." It's hard to choose one memorable moment, so if it's okay I'll go with 2. The first was captaining Mahrez, who scored a free kick versus Bournemouth in the 96th minute. I remember watching the game with a group of friends, and as the game was heading towards the end, some of the lads had started making fun of my captain pick. Mahrez's captain was a big differential that game week, and he scored right at the end to send me screaming and running around like I'd won the World Cup. The other was triple captain Mo Salah in Gameweek 38. This is of course the gameweek that gave me the overall win. Arnautovic, Rashford, Zaha, DeAndre Yedlin and Mo Salah all got me to number 1 against all odds. Hard to forget the last gameweek when it means you've won the whole thing. It was late at night when I won FPL. I was watching the games. After confirmation I did get calls from friends and several other people to congratulate me. I spent the night in disbelief and very happy, but had a hard time explaining to the missus what I'd won and what it meant. I did have dinner with my friends some days later to celebrate and we enjoyed it. The final manager is Simon March, who became the champion in the 2014-15 season with his team name Atletico Madrid. He has a terrific rank history with 10 top 100k finishes since the 2009-10 season, which includes 4 top 10k finishes. Despite a poor Gameweek 38 where rank 2 scored 26 more points than him, he still won by 21 points. This was his team after the final game week. He said, "There are 2 things I can think of. Firstly, I've always thought of FPL as a game that you eventually play against yourself. You need to be reasonably skillful and very lucky to actually win it, but you also need to be able to manage your decision making process and the impulses and biases that might negatively influence it. If you're able to take a step back and objectively question your ideas, you immediately have a big advantage because for all the rivalries, we're usually our own worst enemy in FPL. Secondly, for me, consistency is the best differential because it's the hardest thing to maintain over time. I don't remember having many hugely maverick differential picks the season I won. It was mostly a case of outscoring the average by a few points each week and seeing those points gradually accrue over to a solid lead over time. I could also see it among those chasing me. As you'll know, if you're in the mix to win FPL, the top 10 to 20 overall becomes a bit like a mini-league, and you start to recognise your main rivals. Now and then somebody would pull off some crazy captaincy and break into that group. For example, that one guy who captained Martin Skirtle, who somehow scored a brace that game week, but they'd rarely manage to stay there. It was always the people who were willing to stay patient and disciplined and not try to win it all in one game week that eventually ended up in those top positions. The final day had plenty of drama, but for me, the most memorable moment was a couple of weeks earlier when I was in the first position, but it looked almost certain that my main rival was going to overtake me. I remember realising that I needed Sergio Aguero, my captain, to produce an absolute once-in-a-lifetime haul if I was to have any chance of holding on, and things seemed pretty desperate. But, being Aguero, he of course delivered with a hat-trick, 2 assists and max bonus. That was the moment I finally started believing that I might actually do it. I was living in Asia when I won, so by the time everything was done and dusted, it was about 3 AM on Monday morning, and I had to be up in a few hours, so I actually just texted my family back home and went to bed. In fairness, it has been celebrated a few times since though. A huge thank you to Joshua, Yusuf and Simon for taking the time to be involved with this video. I've got a lot of respect for them recognising that you do need a lot of luck among other things to win FPL, and there simply isn't one top secret to doing it. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. What would you do if you won FPL one day? I read every comment, so leave one below of your thoughts and I'll be sure to read it.